Welcome to another yet Kyvio 1.0 release party. So we announced the last time that we weren't doing any major upgrades anymore, and we aren't, but there are still some significant changes, improvements, and of course bug fixes. First of all, let's talk a little bit about Kyvio 2.0. We've started announcing new features that everybody will get in Kyvio 2.0. We're actually running out of tasks to do for our developers, so it's all testing and improving what we do from here. Of course, we still have a lot of new things to add, but we're kind of holding back on them until we can actually release Kyvio 2.0. At this very moment, it is still the DevOps that is most important, and that's we're all waiting for that. It is progressing, not as fast as I want to. But it is progressing at least. That's good news. Of course, when more news comes out for that, we will inform all of you. So we're really excited about Kyvio 2.0. It's going to be really cool. There's still a lot of testing to be done because there's some of pretty critical parts of the application that we can't really test because DevOps isn't really ready yet. But we are doing all we can just to work around that and test and improve anywhere we can, and just make like the release as perfect as possible when we do it. Like normally when you release, you'll still expect a lot of bugs, and I'm sure we will still run into bugs, but because we have extra time on the development side now, we can do an extra rounds of testing to minimize those. So that's a good part, the good side of it. All right, let's talk about this release though. First of all, the big changes that we've done a few weeks ago. We have announced them many times. We emailed about 7 or 8 times about that because it was quite an important change. So we changed our Ddos provider, Ddos Protection provider, to another company which is called StackPath. In the beginning we had quite a bit of issues with them, but now we are in touch with both the CTO and the COO, I think, and one of the head support people, and they've been working very hard to fix all of their problems, and at this moment it looks like all of those problems have been solved. We've tested many times and all was good. So we have a new Ddos protection provider, so that's obviously new in this release. There's a new custom domain flow. We've written and updated, no, not this one over here, our support article for that. There's still a few improvements I want to do to this article, which I've told support to do that ASAP, but it's already completely updated, sorry, and with all the necessary screenshots and stuff like that, so it should be easy to follow. I'm actually also asking our Spanish support guys to translate this into Spanish, because we've had multiple requests for that. So hopefully that will make it a little bit easier on all of our Spanish users. So hopefully in the next week or so we'll have it in Spanish as well. It is not very hard, like it is a little bit technical, but that's something we can't really avoid. We do have a plan to avoid that completely in Kyvio 2.0, but much more later about that. More about that much later, sorry. But yeah, for now, all you have to do is set up 2 CNAME entries in your DNS provider. One CNAME is for your domain. The other CNAME is to validate your SSL. So the important part for the second one, the first one doesn't have this issue, but the second one, if you do not, like once you start the process and the entry is basically created in our system, we set up an SSL request, and the system works in such a way that by validating your domain, it needs to have that CNAME. So if you do not set that CNAME, the SSL CNAME, correctly in time, which is 2 days, 48 hours more or less, it will expire, and then you have to do it all over again because you will get different values. This is a validation thing. This is not something that is that we can change at all. This is just the way how it is for SSL validation. So once you start that process, you need to do that ASAP and set your TTLs, time to live, that's what it stands for, to as low as possible, so that will help you get everything done and ready as soon as possible. As you can see here, part 1, set up your domain. That's just your xxx.stackpath, blah blah blah. Optional, set the time to live as low as possible. And the second part is set SSL validation, and that's looks a little bit like this. Komodoka.com, and then some long value set as value in your CNAME. So go through it. If something is not clear, contact support. Will be there to help you, or even do it for you if necessary. And that is that. I think most of all of the users are good to go now, though. Alright, so we also have a new optional WAF protection, stands for Web Application Firewall. We have not turned it on by default. We have our own protection already, but it is like an extra protection. And we noticed that sometimes with some features, the WAF kind of can mess up some forums and stuff like that. So we made it optional. So if you want that, you can contact support and set certain functions on and off. So what we have, just very quickly, we have block invalid user agents, block unknown user agents that can be turned on and off, SQL injections, XSS attacks, shell shock, remote file inclusion, WordPress, which is of course not yet necessary because we don't run on anything on WordPress. We have nothing to do with WordPress. Apache struts exploit, local file inclusion, common web application vulnerabilities, web shell, response header injections, Csrf Protection. This is definitely one you shouldn't ask to be turned on because that will mess up stuff. So that one definitely needs to be turned off always. Traffic, you can block certain traffic sources, like for example traffic via Tor, traffic via proxy networks, traffic from hosting services, traffic via VPNs, and convicted bot traffic. Generally, you could do Tor and maybe hosting services, but I wouldn't. Oh, and this one as well, convicted bot services, but it's not really necessary. So it's like it's not really your concern, so to say. We have our own protection otherwise for the general system anyway. You can do spam protection, blocking, probing, and forced browsing, obfuscated attacks and zero-day mitigations, repeat violations, brute force protections, and there's some bot protection over here, some CMS protection. Those should all be off, and that's it. So that's all optional. If you want that, contact support and they can turn that on specifically for your site. You have to have a custom domain, by the way. This only works if you have if you're using a custom domain. And then the always online protection, plus more speed and global catch network. That is also based on the same system. The always online feature is always turned on for everybody, but again that only applies for custom domains. Then a new function, set multiple automations on the same list with the same action. So let me show that to you. So over here we are in Smart Mailer, and then we go to automations, and then now it is possible to set multiple automations on the same source list. So let's just call this test1, and then we'll call this list, and then an event, say for example on link click, and then we move the clicker, the subscriber, from the source list to the destination list, which is this one, and then let's just do a redirection URL to Kyvio.com. Now save your first automation. Alright, done, shows up here. Then we go and create another automation, test2, and the same source list, again on link click, and then move again to another list, I don't know, this list for example, and then again go to Kyvio.com, save. And as you can see, there's no errors now. Before that was not possible, and you see both of the shortcodes here. So this is the shortcode, and you can add that to your email. So for example, you can say, what do you want to do? I want to do X, click here. I want to do Y, click here. So you can create an email where people basically qualify themselves, and based on which link they click, they are moved to another link. It's very, very, very powerful. Something that made Neil very, very enthusiastic. So that's really cool. And then what we have is we added a new endpoint to retrieve sequence emails for users for the API. So for all you techies out there and want to work our API, that is a new function in the API. It's in the documentation for the API, so you can search that on the site. If you can't find it, just like ask in the Facebook group or ask support. Then what else? Let me see. Adding multiple email lists as source list. I already mentioned that. Oh, this is this. Let me show you. If you go segments and then new segment, and you can just select all. It's a small thing that we added over here. So that's really nice as well. Just quickly and easier for you. The save as draft, also something that we reintroduced because we kind of removed that with the update of the interface. Over here, let's go to broadcasts, and then just like edit this one. As you can see here, there's the button save as draft is back and ready to use. Then improvements, some general improvements. Added more checks for domain validation for custom domains. Because we noticed some people even managed to insert their Kyvio domains as a custom domain, which makes no sense whatsoever, of course, and just people putting in completely invalid domain names in that field and saving it. So we added checks, so that's not possible anymore. Smart Mailer deleting segments was previously not possible if that segment was used at any time in a broadcast in the past. Now it does give you a warning like, hey, this segment has been used before. Are you sure you want to delete that? But you can now. Generally, we have improved a bunch of notifications and confirmation boxes, stuff like that. Just some details, but you know, they need to be there anyway. We removed Deal Guardian from the payment platform integrations because it doesn't exist anymore. That's the select all option that I mentioned earlier. So I actually have to remove. I think these are double over here. I have to remove that. All right. Oh yeah, we've updated the WordPress plugin a few times. I think we're at 1.0.11 by heart now. So to make it work, of course, with the new Ddos protection system and a bunch of other just smaller improvements and bug fixes. Then for Smart Mailer, email broadcast preview background color was like full on green, wasn't very pretty, so we fixed that. Then the advanced option of using custom headers. So over here, SMTP setup, we have a option for advanced users to add headers, as you can see, and you can do reply to, and then Steven at Steven.com, whatever. So you can set reply to headers, for example, and this works is tested with SendGrid and with SparkPost. Sorry. And that works fine. However, there are of course SMTP providers that will override this. So for us it works, we set it, but sometimes depending on your integration it might override it still. So that's important to know, but this is only necessary for advanced users. If you don't know what I'm talking about here right now, just ignore it, no worries. Let's see what else we have. Number 9, general. We found more static resources that were moved to the CDN. So we minified them and moved them to the CDN to improve speed a little bit where possible. Smart Mailer, we added various checks and better notifications around SMTP integrations. Like for example, if you wanted to use a Sendinblue integration, there was like a hidden article in their FAQs that you actually have to email them with your free account to actually get activated. So we had one user, he was trying to use it, he was doing everything correct, but it wasn't working, and we were kind of confused as well. And then our developer actually found like an article that was kind of hidden on their website, said like, well, if you want to start using it, you actually have to email us first, and then we will activate it for you. So we just added that as a kind of a, if you're using Sendinblue, for example, we do an extra check, so like, hey, go to this FAQ on Sendinblue, and it tells you what to do to actually activate your account, and a few other extra checks as far as we can do just to make your life a little bit easier. And again, fixed on more spelling mistakes. That seems to be a continuous thing for us. Like we've mentioned many times before, nobody in our team actually is native English speaker. So yeah, we will have spelling mistakes there, here and there. But we are doing our best to improve those. Bug fixes, we have 15, so really quickly. Some button icons weren't showing in smart funnels, that is fixed. Smart memberships, it wasn't possible to edit individual pages. Like each time you edited something on a page, like for example a background, it changed on all the pages. So we fixed that. Now you can just edit one page and set the background just for one page. Smart funnels, form field label wasn't changing color in the editor, so that's fixed. Changing your Kyvio account email broke access to Smart Academy access. So one of those things that we didn't think about while we added Smart Academy access. One of those situations, but that's fixed now. Smart mailer, wrong tab selected when you're going into the details in the opt-in builder, that's fixed, small UX thingy. Cloned elements weren't working properly in smart memberships, so that's been fixed as well. Smart funnels, the pop-up that are bigger than the screen size didn't show a scroll bar. You shouldn't really try to create pop-ups that are too high because it's just not very user-friendly. But in case you still do, the system will show a scroll bar now. Smart mailer, some opt-in stats weren't displayed correctly. We did track them correctly, but they weren't displayed correctly. That's fixed. Same issue for smart funnels. GoToWebinar integration was updated and fixed. There was a small issue there for some users. Blog module subscribe form widget wasn't working. That is fixed. Constant contact integration, is fixed. Smart mailer fixed test sending sequence emails. They were sending multiple times, only when testing, not in an actual real life usage. So we fixed that as well, small thing. Smart funnels, the funnel transfer feature was not available for the recent 24-month birthday special that we did, and it should have been there. So we fixed that as well a while ago already. A lot of these fixes, like I mentioned, what we're doing right now with our deployment is that we don't actually deploy just now or every 2 weeks. We deploy continuously. So a lot of these fixes or improvements have actually been done weeks ago, but we just didn't announce them yet. Just as important to know for you as well. And then last one, for Smart Mailer, some users had issues with the Smart Mailer opt-in form, HTML code, and CSS on their pages. And honestly, the code that was generated, that was pretty bad, and I actually scolded that developer who was responsible for that pretty hard for that, because it was just really ugly and it should have never been there. This has now been fixed and properly done. So you do have to recopy your HTML and plus CSS code to your pages wherever you're using your opt-in forms. So that's important. And that's it for this time. So yeah, mostly the big bug fixes and improvements, of course. Like we said, we're not really focusing on new features or adding anything anymore. We are full on Kyvio 2 to make that to get that into your hands as fast as possible and as perfect as possible. So we're really excited. We just showed it to some new marketing hires in our company. And they're gonna help us launch it, position it, and everything like that. We're extremely excited about that, and I hope you're gonna love Kyvio 2.0 as soon as it comes out. And I can't wait to finally start inviting those first beta users to Kyvio 2.0. All right, thank you so much for your attention, and until next time, Steven out.